welcome to Comic Books and You. Today we're going to go over Peacemaker Tries Ard number 2, Try Arder. So this is a continuation of one comic that we've already covered for issue 1. It's a comedy featuring John Cena, more or less, and overall, not a bad read for the first one. The second one is also a pretty decent read. So our main character still is Peacemaker, who's our tragi-comedy hero, because it is really billed as a comedy, but he is a fairly tragic figure overall. He has a love for weird bands, which we learn in this one. One in particular called Mucous Membrane, apparently. He has a huge collection of helmets that were made by his father with all sorts of special ability, including flamethrower, ice beam, shrinkage ray, etc. He really loves working with people, especially when they're awesome or they're cool. So he is not completely antisocial. The problem is he has a very, very hard time socializing, period. Another thing that we learn in this particular book is that he only speaks American, not English, American. Our backup character in this case is Monsieur Mallah, the gorilla henchman of the brain. He walks around with a minigun. He can punch people with his bottom fists. He can speak 12 languages, but we only see him use 2 throughout the book, including Google translated French. And he is a very good actor, all things considered, for a gorilla. So a very fun little character here in this book. Our villain is the Demolition Team, mainly. So they're a super villain construction and renovation team, also sidelined as mercenaries and thieves. So they've got a fairly wide range of things. They are unionized. They're always up to snuff under union dues, and they always follow union rules. So even if there's a fight going on, if they have to go on their mandated lunch break, they go on their mandated lunch break. That's how it works when you're union. They're completely and absolutely evil, and they're depicted by the fact that they're going to kill kittens to test booby traps. So we need to make sure that we know that they're evil. A bit of a weird aside here. I've just gotten Green Lantern number 2, and the Demolition Team is also featured in that one. I need to get some info on it, but I have a feeling that DC has a set of villains and set of characters that you're allowed to use when writing books for a certain period. I'd have to talk with, I don't know, EVS or someone like that to try to get a bit of an idea of how the character selection for teams and stuff is done. Let's get into the story, and it starts right off where we left issue 1. Peacemaker is talking to Brian and Monsieur Mallah, trying to figure out what they want him to do to get his dog back. Peacemaker thought he would have to go and fight Deathstroke to get DNA for Brain, but Brain has a much better idea. They just need to go and steal genetic material for Deathstroke in General Immortus' vault, and Mallah will accompany him for backup. Before going on the mission, Peacemaker makes a pit stop at home to pick up his things, a helmet, his guns, grenades, things you go grab at home when you're going on a mission. And a bunch of local redneck kids, that's the best way to identify those, start heckling him, insulting him, saying that he's the dumbest superhero in the world. And when he heard the Penguin was going on a crime spree, he went to the zoo, something like that. It would work if we were in Batman Return. Never mind. And the kid gets stopped by Mallah basically ripping out a tree and throwing it at them. It works, and the kids disperse. Peacemaker is pretty happy with Mallah's action and what Mallah's doing, and he needs to go and pick up one of his father's custom helmet. It makes him a bit emotional. He has a bit of a tear, but that's because he's got a scratched cornea, not because he's emotional. And he decides to pick up the F-beam helmet, and that's exactly what it says on the label. In here, we've got the human rocket. We also have Bane's voice. We've got the underwater helmet. Dr. Slick. Like I said, there's the shrinkage ray that Monsieur Mallah asks about because he's not sure what it is. On their way to Immortus' hideout, Peacemaker and Mallah bond over a mucous membrane song. Mallah goes to hit the radio, and Peacemaker starts yelling at him because the driver's the one to pick the songs. But Mallah actually cranks the volume up. Both of them are really happy and sing the song together. Our heroes infiltrate the outhouse, which is actually an hideout. So it's an hideout house, something along those lines. That is General Immortus' base, and it's a place that's currently under renovation by our local villains, the Demolition Team. They get ready to throw a kitten into a death trap to test it, because that's the best way to test things, I believe. Peacemaker will not stand for this and shoots the probably pre-unionized guy, because he's not wearing a hard hat, and the fight begins. And it's a fairly decent fight scene overall. It's actually 3 or 4 pages, which is pretty impressive in many cases with DC or Marvel. We see the Demolition Team use a jackhammer to fight, and deflect grenades, and shoot people with a nail gun. The whole shebang. After Peacemaker does manage to get rid of a few of them, one of the Demolition Team was going to ambush our intrepid hero, and Monsieur Mallah knocks him out with his bottom fist, and the two I-5 as they get into General Immortus' vault, which is a bunch of random junk, I would say. You've got all sorts of things in there. Peacemaker, unfortunately, knocks a bowl of hard candy, and it makes General Immortus really mad and pull out a giant death ray that he needs his glasses to shoot. Hopefully, Peacemaker strikes a powerful strike against Immortus, as we see at the bottom right here. It incapacitates him. After they recover the genetic material, the two of them come out, but Mallah actually betrays Peacemaker and shoots him in the back with his minigun at almost point blank. That would leave far more damage than what we have on Peacemaker, unless that t-shirt he wears is made out of Kryptonian material or something. But still, the whole bonding thing was just a ploy. Mallah explains to Peacemaker that he does speak English, but he didn't want to speak with an idiot like him, and he leaves him behind, as Brain say that we'll keep Bruce Wayne the dog, because he wants to have a pet to touch when he has his own body. So it ends on a hard cliffhanger right there, with the apparent death of our hero. Pretty sure he'll get rescued, because there's at least 4 other books coming of this. And Peacemaker keeps grabbing animal at the end of each of them. We'll probably get a parrot at the end of the next one at this point. This is a nice little comedy story mixed with action, and it works really well with the characters we have here. The main cover is basically lightning bolts in the back and our 2 dynamic duo in the front. I'm not a huge fan of how Monsieur Mallah looks on that particular cover. I like the art we have in the book a lot more. I understand where that comes from. And there was an old study, I think it was in the 60s or 70s, that said that if you put an ape or a monkey on the cover of a book, you increase the sales by something like 22%. That's the reason why there's so many gorilla, chimp, and all sorts of monkey henchmen for villains. It's an actual study that was done by the comic book industry. This is fun factoids that you learn. The same cover exists as a movie poster cover. I would have liked to get that one, but it's not the one my local comic book shop got. It's okay. I think it's just much better with just all the little additions you've got to it, as it looks like a movie poster. It looks perfectly silly, which works perfectly fine. Attracts both those covers. I mean, they're the same except for all the little details. Both of them, they attract the eye, especially if you've watched the Peacemaker TV show. It's got everything that it needs. The third cover that I found is a cover with Superman being knocked down, the big American flag shield in the back, and a dove landing on Peacemaker's arm. I understand why it's a dove, because of peace, Peacemaker, all that stuff. I would have preferred a bald eagle there, just because America. It's weaker because we don't see Superman in that book. If I bought that book, not having read the first one, and I saw this, I would have expected Peacemaker to beat up Superman, or Superman tumble and Peacemaker take credit for the win. I wouldn't be super happy with the book if I had that particular cover and didn't know that it was an ongoing. Oh well, not a terrible cover either, just not as good as it could be. Quick aside, the paper in this particular book is top quality. Gloss laminated, it's not baking paper, like Eric July keeps saying. I have no idea why this comic gets top of the line premium paper for all of its pages, while I have Green Lantern here in my hand, which is a top character, and it is the baking paper, tissue paper kind of paper. It is not the worst paper that's available in comics that DC uses, but it's not the best one either. And I have no idea why the Peacemaker books, even though, I mean, maybe it's because they're Black Label that they have that quality paper, but that's what we have. We get so many Flash ads in this particular book, it's not even funny. We get the Flash number 800 ad kind of reasonable, because it's upcoming and it's a big number. 800 is pretty decent. Apparently, starting with a all new story, all new everything. I don't like the fact that Wally West gets, the Flash book series, but he's also in the Titans, and it gets confusing. Oh well. There's 9 variant covers on top of it. This is just overkill, in my opinion, even for a number 800. And you've had my thoughts on variant covers in a previous video. We get 2 ads. 2 ads for The Flash, which is coming out. They're saying June 16th. A lot of people have already watched it as I'm recording this on the 14th. It apparently is a movie. That's about it. What people are saying. It's probably one of those cases where DC was like, yeah, we've got 2 ad space. Okay, let's put the Flash on one of them. What do we put in the other one? And nobody's paying. They need to get their stuff together quicker than slower. I've just started reading on the side like Doom Patrol 2002, and this one has so many ads and so many ads that are actually revenue generating. It's not even funny. Our big companies, Marvel, DC, Image. Image does less ads in their things, that's for sure, but need to figure out like who they can sell ads to in those comics. One people that are giving money is HRO, those weird NFT trading card things. I have no idea what kind of revenue and cash this generates, not only for DC as a publisher, but as a company, if it has any real worth or any real value. Oh well, we're never going to get those numbers unless I get really lucky or start digging quite a bit. We get an ad for AEW All Access, which was their like reality show behind the scene. They've got the new show Collision on Saturdays, and it's starting this week on the 16th or 17th, with CM Punk coming back, maybe for 2 matches, and then he'll quit again because it's CM Punk. I have a feeling that we're going to see more AEW ads in upcoming books. Those are revenue generating because AEW is on TBS, so a channel that belongs to Warner Brothers, but they're not owned by Warner Brothers. So this is money in the bank. Even if it's 5 cents per comics that they print, it's not a bad influx. It's the month of June. You know what that means. DC Pride 2023. We've got the book on the left. We have DC Pride Through the Years, which is a book that makes absolutely no sense because never mind. I'm not going to give them a penny for those books. I haven't seen them sold at my local comic book shop. They're not even in the listings. Some people are saying they're seeing it, and some people are saying that they're buying the variant covers. So they're moving units, I guess, but I have a feeling they're only moving those variant covers. It's one of those things here that they do, and I'm not sure it's a revenue generating issue, more or less. Artistic merit throughout this book. Everything looks great. It is a great looking comics. It is mostly character based. That's what we need to look at here. Peacemaker looks great throughout the whole thing. Yes, he is now 100% based on John Cena. It's fine. He's a hunk of beef. He's got all sorts of facial expressions throughout this book, which is refreshing after going through Indigo Children, where facial expressions were rarer than anything else. And we do see him with some emotion, and the emotion is well reflected even on a stoic character. Same thing with Monsieur Mallah. We have him throughout the book. He is great looking for a gorilla. And he has a wide range of expression on his face, from complete and absolute disdain for Peacemaker to happiness, joy, everything like that. It's nice to see a wide range of expression on a non-human character or a non-humanoid. Well, he is humanoid as he walks on 2 feet, but truly non-human. If you look at many of the aliens in DC and Marvel, most of them are humans with a prosthetic forehead. Here we have an actual gorilla. It's fun. I mean, we see here the different expression, different looks on him. He always looks great. Strange thing to notice, but we see a bee in this particular comic, and it's really, really good. It's a very, very nice representation of a bee. Wow, you're stretching it. Why are you talking about a bee? When was the actual time in the last couple years where you saw that kind of detail on something minor like a bee in a modern comic? It's actually pretty rare. You're going to have all sorts of details on guns, you're going to have all sorts of details on vehicles. A simple thing like a bee being really well drawn shows huge attention to detail by the artist, which is something that should be commended, in my opinion. The Demolition Team looks awesome. It's not a huge character team, and it's not a team that we see in a million different things. I actually dug it up on a wiki to try to figure out, like, where did they start? Do they have any weird background? There's barely anything on them except for their names. They're funny. They're cool. Rosie, their boss, is what women in those superhero movies should look like. So she's big, she's buff, she looks like she can hang out with the boys and probably take them out if necessary. That's what all those girl bosses that we have in all those TV shows should look like. And should she be played by Gina Carano if they decide to put the Demolition Team in a show? Probably not. I'm sure there's other MMA artists that would fit the role as well. Mechanical design wise, they're pretty good for Peacemaker's car. I'm not a huge fan of that steamroller. It just doesn't look super good. It was probably just drawn from a source material, nothing inspired or anything about it. I'm not sure what I'm picky about in regards to that steamroller, but in the end, it's practical. It's not going to break the internet, but it's practical. The backgrounds in here are functional, simple gradients. We've got a few building shots, interiors. It's nothing out of the ordinary. It's functional. It does what it needs to do. The character art is really where this particular book shines. Overall, this book is a work of art on how a guy gets played. Peacemaker needs human connections. He needs friends. He needs people to hang out with. But he doesn't know how to do it. He doesn't realize that what he's doing is not a good way to make friends. And he doesn't seem to get that some people could be something else than what they appear. He is a very top level guy and behaves like a top level guy. Peacemaker sees his dad as a bad father because, well, in the end, his father trained him to be a killing machine. But he did make a metric boatload of helmets for him. He taught him how to be top of the line killing machine, yes. They did have a connection. It's probably one of the rare person that Peacemaker had a direct connection with and felt a relation to throughout his life. He has affection for him. He remembers him fondly, even if he was a bad father. And in this case, it's not a bad father trope like we see in many other things. This is an actual bad father. It is part of Peacemaker's background that his father is absolutely crazy. And here we see Peacemaker crying. No, sorry, not crying. He's got a cornea torn up. Evil here is depicted as real evil. We've got Union guys killing kittens. Immortus that ready to kill anybody that's just spilled their candies. Brain is a complete jerk. I mean, Peacemaker did everything he wanted, and he wasn't even asking for anything extra, anything more. He was just having a good time, hanging with Mallah, beating up random people, and then he betrayed him instantly. There's no relatable, understandable villain with profound motivations here. No, people here that are evil, they're really evil. So even if Peacemaker is evil, he's fighting people that are even more evil than he is. The twist of the betrayal at the end actually hit me really well. I, having seen Unstoppable Doom Patrol and Mallah betraying Brain, at least that's what I believe, I would have expected Mallah and Peacemaker to hang out, be a bit more friendly, go their separate ways, and that would reinforce that Mallah is trying to separate himself from the Brain. No, here it's pure betrayal, and it felt really, really bad. I felt for Peacemaker getting shot in the back there, and it felt bad in a really good way. The pacing here is okay, mostly. It picks up immediately at the end of issue 1 without missing a beat. So you could have those two issues merged into one, and it would probably be a better book, in my opinion. A lot of those limited series, those 6 issues, 4 issue series, would be better published as larger books less frequently, and it would work better. This is a comedy piece, not action adventure, not thriller, not detective drama. The pacing here is to let the jokes land and get the action going while letting them breathe. And it does a very good job at that. You've got no joke that overstays its welcome, and you've got no joke that doesn't land like it should. The team that's working on this book actually has a comedic timing that works for this type of work, basically. The growing friendship between Peacemaker and Mallah is really good, and it's well paced through it. Peacemaker starts closed off, progressively lets Mallah in, and gets betrayed at the end, which is where it's horrible. We've got that nice action scene, 4 pages of dumb, super violent action with stupid dialogue, stupid onomatopoeias. So you've got everything that you need in a comedy action comic. It works like it should. I've been getting feedback from a few people, just letting tendrils out, a few discussions online, a few discussions in real life, that Peacemaker is being overused in DC properties. I understand the feeling. I share it. I mean, I think I've seen Peacemaker more in the past 6 months than he's ever been used. Basically, he's getting to Deadpool level in a way. But for this particular book series, it works really well. If he wasn't being overused in all these other books, this book would have more room to breathe and more room to grow. Hopefully, it goes somewhere useful. It's mature language, violence. It doesn't hold any punches, but it's clearly a comedy and not a dark comedy. It's dumb action. Turn your brain off. You just read it and you're like, something bad's going to happen. And then something bad happens because there's a guy who's absolutely oblivious to reality, except that he knows he's cool. I feel bad for Peacemaker. The guy's an asshole. I mean, he's been in the Suicide Squad. He's killed numerous people for numerous reasons, but he's getting so much bad treatment in these books that you can't help but feel bad for him. The Suicide Squad doesn't want him. Amanda Waller doesn't want him. He gets betrayed by other supervillains. Everything he does turns to proverbial shit. And he's done nothing wrong in this particular series. Yes, he was a bit rude, but outside of that, he's done nothing wrong. He's not committed any crime. He's not killed anyone that other superheroes except Batman wouldn't have probably done very bad things to. He's done nothing that warrants the treatment he's getting. This series has delivered on what it's supposed to deliver, and I can see this book series being used as an adaptation in the streaming show with John Cena. Take bits of this one, put it in the show, and it would work more or less fine. You need to adapt a few things, obviously, but it would work fairly well. So, I hope you guys have a very nice rest of your day. I thank you very much for listening. Keep on reading comics, keep on enjoying them. I'll keep analyzing them, and I'll see you guys later. Bye bye.